it's Jessii Vee, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about some more lost cartoon episodes. I haven't continued this series in so long and I love talking about stuff like this. So today we're talking about 3 different shows that I'm sure a lot of you recognize and maybe watched when you were a kid. And also, if you did not notice, I am wearing a shirt that has Wednesday Addams on it. I love this girl. And it says Aquarius and I'm an Aquarius and it has like the symbol on the side. I love this shirt. I know you guys always comment,
"Oh my gosh, Jessii always talks about her shirts. If she doesn't, something's wrong."
So yeah, before we get started, also if you would like to win this new backdrop behind me, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, so my Jessii Vee channel, turn on your notification bell, and then head over to an Instagram page called Jessii Vee Merch, which I just started. Go there and follow it and DM me your favorite season of the year. Mine is always fall and winter, and that's why the backdrop was the other way, because I thought these branches down here looked more like fall and winter, but you guys didn't like that way. Anyway, so guys, let's get into the video. The first show we're going to be talking about is Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues is an animated children's television series that first aired on September 8th, 1996. The show follows the adventures of Blue, who is a blue-spotted puppy, and she has an owner named Steve, who is also a main role. Okay, I have to admit something. I had no idea that Blue was a girl. I don't know why my whole life I thought it was a boy. Not that it even matters really, but like, I just dropped my phone. My phone's even shook. Now, this show was so interesting to people because the entire thing was animated except for Steve, who was the host of the show. He was obviously played by a real human, but like everything in the show moved and the furniture spoke and had eyes. It was just an intriguing concept for the time. I mean, I remember I used to watch this show religiously. Religiously? I can speak today. I loved this show as a kid. I watched it all the time whenever it was on. I knew all the songs. I knew everything. And because I loved it so much, I have to admit that doing research about this show kind of ruined my childhood. So now I know how you guys feel about my videos. But yeah, comment down below if you used to watch this show as well. I know it came out in the 90s, but I think they did a reboot like a few years ago. I don't know, I don't really keep up with this stuff. So let's talk about some lost episodes of Blue's Clues. Now, there are quite a few about this show, but a lot of them I can't even mention because they are so messed up. But there is one that a lot of people remember called Steve's Notebook. If you've ever watched the show, you notice that Steve is always holding his notebook with him. He uses it to draw all the clues when he goes on his adventures with Blue. And every episode, Steve is always so outgoing and happy and talkative and he's singing. People always know him as this crazy hyper dude that has a dog. But there was one episode that people remember where the episode starts and Steve walks on the screen looking very, very tired. He has these dark circles under his eyes. His movements are very slow, almost like he's functioning in slow motion. His eyes look bloodshot and he walks up to the camera and says, "Hi everyone," just in a completely unenthusiastic tone. As the episode went on, the way he was drawing in his notebook wasn't right. It was almost like he was just scribbling on it instead of drawing an actual object. All of his shapes were distorted. Something was not right about Steve, which people found really weird because if you look at the show, he always draws really well. So near the end of this episode, the creepiest thing happened. The screen got darker and you can see through the windows of the house that it almost looked like it was about to start storming. And Steve began writing something in his notebook that people couldn't see at first. But then he turned it around and held it up to the camera and it said, "Help me." And you could see this pleading look in his bloodshot eyes, like you knew he meant it. And then the episode suddenly ended. And people began speculating that maybe Steve was being held against his will. Like he had been kidnapped and was forced to make episodes every single day to make this show be popular and so it would make a lot of money. And maybe he was filming all day, every day, so he could barely rest and that's why he looks so horribly sick. Now, of course, this is a creepypasta, but it's definitely very eerie to read. As far as I know, this wasn't a real episode, but if you've seen this episode, please comment down below. And then there's the hallucinations theory. There's this other theory that everything Steve is experiencing in the show is a hallucination because he he's slowly going insane. And that's why he sees talking objects, that's why he sings songs all day. He's literally living in a house by himself going mad. And Blue doesn't actually exist, none of his friends actually exist. It's a very dark theory. Now, speaking of Steve, there was an actual conspiracy theory that he died. The real actor who played the character Steve in the show was named Steve Burns. So he actually had the same name in real life as his character did in the show. He did the show for 7 years, and then one day he was suddenly replaced by someone else, which really upset people because people loved Steve being the host. So when he was replaced, people were really sad and didn't really understand why. There was no explanation. It was like he was there one day and gone the next, and for 15 years after the show, no one heard from him. He wasn't in the news, no one ever saw him, so people speculated that he actually died. And the producers of the show didn't want to tell anyone because they didn't want it to ruin their ratings. I mean, if people heard he passed away, maybe they would stop watching the show. So they tried to inconspicuously replace him, hoping that kids wouldn't really tell the difference. And trust me, speaking from someone who saw the show, we could tell the difference. We knew it wasn't Steve. And there was even this lost episode rumor called New Steve, where this new host named Joe came onto the show and Blue knew it wasn't Steve. So Blue asked, "Where's the real Steve?" And Joe looked at the camera and said,
"Steve is gone now, and he's never coming back."
And this was insinuating that this Joe got rid of Steve so he could be the new popular guy on the show. Now, once again, this was all just a rumor made up to scare people because in 2017, Steve Burns finally came forward and said, yes, he is still alive. He actually admitted that the reason why he quit Blue's Clues was because he was balding. He was starting to go bald. And he says he didn't want kids to start watching him lose hair as the show went on. So he decided to quit before all his hair was gone off his head, which I feel like is a reasonable reason to leave. But also, like, honestly, Steve, I would have watched you even if you were bald. All right, so we have 2 more shows to talk about. And these lost episode descriptions are a little bit shorter than the Blue's Clues ones, so these are gonna go by pretty fast. But the next show is called Peppa Pig, which I know you guys know about. I've actually talked about a banned Peppa Pig episode in a previous video, but I don't think I've ever talked about a lost episode. There are so many on the internet, so many, and like the Blue's Clues ones, some are too graphic to talk about on this channel, so we're gonna talk about the ones that are less crazy. So first we have one called Burning House. There was one where the episode started and the title came up saying why. And the whole episode is Peppa and her family dancing around the living room while their house burns down. So literally they're dancing, having a good time, and the walls are on fire, the carpet's on fire, everything around them is burning. And they don't seem to care, which is super weird. And there's a lot of versions where it goes into a lot more detail, talking about how they all like pass away in this house dancing and burning on fire. But yeah, people who claim to have seen this lost episode said it was very upsetting to see. And the next one is called Backwards. There's another lost episode where everything seems normal until Peppa comes on the screen and her head is literally twisted all the way around and is facing backwards on her body. And her parents walk up to her and they're like,
"Oh, Peppa, something is different about you today. What is it?"
And they're looking at her and they can't figure it out, even though it's so obvious that her head is backwards. And then she's like,
"Mommy, Daddy, it's opposite day at school today."
what the heck? And then at the end of the episode, her head falls off because it had been twisted too much. Ugh. So that would definitely be a very creepy episode to see, and I'm so glad these 2 episodes are not actually real, thank goodness. Watch when you guys are like, no, I've actually seen that episode, Jess. Okay, and the last show we're gonna talk about is Bear and the Big Blue House, which I know I've also mentioned on this channel before. But this lost episode is called Luna in capital letters. Now, Bear and the Big Blue House was a very popular show back when I was growing up. And if you used to watch it, you know there was a character called Luna the Moon. Well, the Creepypasta says that Luna puts on a friendly face, but deep inside, she is soulless and bloodthirsty. So this creepypasta is saying she's actually evil very deep down inside, and she's trying to hide that from everybody. The story goes that this man was working at Walt Disney World in Florida as a janitor, and as he was cleaning the inside of a soundstage, he found this tape that said Luna on it, and he knew it was from Bear in the Big Blue House. But when he turned over the tape, he saw that it also said Luna 666, which is never a good time. Those 3 6s all together mean evil. That was written in red ink, so he knew something was off, and he decided to play the tape for himself. When he played the episode, he noticed it was a lot darker than usual and almost had this red tint to it. It showed this big house, but there was no characters walking around inside of it. 7 minutes went by of the camera just going through all the rooms of the house, but no one was there. And all you could hear in the background was this weird audio of a crunching sound. Through these whole 7 minutes, you just heard someone crunching on something like they were eating. The camera pans towards the sky where you see Luna opening and closing her mouth as though she had just eaten something. And then by the end of the episode, you realize that she has consumed all the characters and her friends in the house. She ate everybody. So this Disney worker was so freaked out to watch this, immediately told all the staff, they reported it. And yeah, I don't think this ever aired on television. And obviously it's just a creepypasta, but yeah, that's pretty scary. I used to love this show, and I thought Luna was the best character ever, just personally. Anyways, guys, those are the 3 shows we're gonna be talking about today. If you want me to continue this series on lost episodes, definitely give this video a thumbs up and let me know, and comment which show you want me to talk about. But yeah, I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.